Hi everyone, it's Andrea Villeneuve here. I am a food and nutrition educator. I'm really excited today because we're making one of my favorites, as always, is a one-pot meal, and we will be making one-pot cheesy broccoli, beef, and rice. So just so you guys know, I usually go into schools and do cooking demonstrations / cook-along programs with students. I'm really a huge advocate for food literacy and food skills. It's really important to learn how to cook for many reasons, including your health. So that's what I do. I go into schools and I teach kids how to cook. First things first, that I'm always, whenever I'm doing a presentation, I get everybody to wash their hands, warm water, 20 seconds with soap, okay? Make sure you really get in there. If you have long hair, make sure you tie it back. And if you're worried about getting your clothes dirty at all, please toss on an apron. In addition, the reason I did mention the recipe right here, I recommend that you always read through the recipe before you get started, just to make sure that you have everything you're going to need for the recipe, including tools and utensils, and all of those things. Also, it helps because then you can prepare and you can see what I have here, how I have everything kind of measured out in advance for this recipe. It's called mise en place. It means that you're prepped before you start cooking, and that way the cooking process will be a lot more easier going. It'll go smoother, and it'll be a much better and more enjoyable experience for you guys at home. Okay, so to get started with our delicious recipe, the cheesy broccoli, beef, and rice. It's a mouthful. It is a one-pot dish, so we're going to get started with just putting together the rice. So this is a great way to flavor rice right here. So we have a cup of rice. I'm using brown rice for this recipe, just for a little bit of a healthy, a little bit more of those, a little bit more fiber, and all of those delicious things. If you do not like brown rice, you don't have to use brown rice. You can always use white rice. Absolutely, that's an option. But what I recommend is that if you use a different kind of rice, this is 20-minute brown rice. But if you use a different kind of rice, just make sure you look at the back of the packaging, and it'll tell you how much liquid you need per amount of rice, and it'll also let you have a better idea of the cooking time. Remember, this is 20-minute brown rice that I'm working with, but if you're using something else, follow the back of the package directions for liquid and cooking time, okay? So we already put in that cup of rice. I'm having 2 cups of beef broth right here. It's also going to go in. There we go. And I did prep some of this stuff in advance, so that's why you hear that alarm going off. There we go. And basically that alarm is just going off to tell me that because I pre-made the rice, because it's going to take a little bit to cook. But anyway, so back to this. We have our rice in here. We have our broth in here. And now let's flavor it up a little bit more. We have some salt and pepper. We're going to sprinkle in. We have onion powder. And we also have some steak spice. Okay? So what you want to do is on your burner, you want to turn it to high heat and bring it to a boil, okay? You can bring it to a boil with the lid off. And then once you do bring it to a boil, what you want to do, so I will, since we already have our rice kind of pre-prepared for this one, I'll just show you guys. Let's just imagine that this is bubbling away. Once it is boiling, brought it to a boil at high heat, what I want you to do is I want you to give it a stir one last time. And then I want you to place the lid on, and I want you to turn the heat down to low, okay? And depending on if you use the 20-minute This will take 20 minutes on low heat, and then you take it off and you set it aside. So basically, since this is 20-minute brown rice, we're going to keep it here on low. It would be simmering away for 20 minutes. And then after the 20 minutes is up, you take it off the heat and set it aside for an additional probably around 10 minutes or so, just so that it absorbs everything. Super, super, super important to remember with rice. What do we never do? We never take the lid off, okay guys? You don't want to take the lid off to keep peeking in and looking to see if your rice is cooking. And the big reason for that is because you need the steam. You absolutely need the steam to get into those little grains of rice and to make it so that they cook properly. Your rice will take way longer to cook if you keep on trying to peek in and look at it. So once the lid is on, keep the lid on. You need that steam, okay? So right now, with the magic of television, I already do have some rice prepared. Remember that if you're not using brown rice, what I want you to do, if you're not using the 20-minute brown rice, follow the package directions for the liquid as well as for the cooking time, okay? So I'll just show you guys. This has now been on for the 20 minutes. And you can kind of see, yeah, you guys can see really well actually, that all of the rice has been, all the liquid has been absorbed by the rice. And that's kind of how you know. So it is an advantage to cook your rice in like something with a clear lid, with a see-through lid, just because you can keep an eye on it without lifting it up constantly. But usually whatever the timing is on the back of the packaging is pretty accurate, so just go with that. So for this recipe, to add in the extra ingredients, what I'm going to stir in now is, and I'm basically going to quickly stir these things in, is our big batch beef, which I'll talk about in just a second, which has been pre-prepared. We're going to have frozen broccoli florets, which you can see, and we're going to stir in half of our Parmesan cheese, okay? If you don't have Parmesan cheese at home, that's absolutely okay. What you can do is use any cheese you have on hand. I don't want you guys having to go out and buy something new that you don't normally get. If you have a cheese at home, most cheeses will go well into this dish, okay? So I'm just gonna take the lid off. Whoo, steamy, and I'm quickly gonna do this. This is 2 cups right there of our big batch beef that's gone in there. 5 cups of frozen broccoli florets. There we go. And half of our cheese, okay? There we go. And we reserve the rest of this for the top. There we go. I'm quickly gonna stir it in because the whole point with this dish is that you need some heat from the rice to continue cooking the frozen broccoli florets, okay? So I just did a quick stir. Point you guys out. Quick stir. You can see there's still steam coming off of this, so it's still hot. And then you put the lid on. And then I'm just gonna let this sit. It would be off the heat. If you feel like you're going to need a little heat, you can put it back on the heat depending on how big your broccoli florets are. But this is off the heat right now, and I'm just using the steam to cook the frozen, sorry, not even cook, it's already cooked, but just to de-thaw the broccoli florets. Okay, so wanted to take it back a step and go over a couple of things that I just put in there. So as mentioned, I wanted to talk a little bit to you about big batch beef. So big batch beef is so fantastic because basically you cook it in advance in a very large quantity, and then you put it into individual packages that you can freeze. So I would recommend if you're cooking for a family of 4 or 5, then maybe you want to have 2 cups of beef kind of frozen. So you fully cook it, let it cool down, and then you put it in little freezer bags to to put in the freezer in about a single portion for your family. However big you need it to be, right? So just so you guys know a little bit more about it. So right here we do have some directions for a big batch beef. So it's 4 pounds of ground beef. And then you are going to cook that for 9 to 10 minutes, breaking into small chunks as always with the back of a wooden spoon. And then you also want to have in this recipe, it's 4 diced onions and 4 minced cloves of garlic. So you're already getting those flavors mixed in with the beef. As I've mentioned before, onions, garlic are kind of universal spices that are used in so many different cuisines that it doesn't hurt to have it already, your beef already seasoned with those. Okay, and then once you have all of that cooked together, what you're gonna do is you're going to take a cookie sheet, a lined cookie sheet, and just kind of like lay it all out, sprinkle it all out so that it is just completely flat. Kind of put it in the freezer for just a little bit, and this will help make sure that when you freeze them in bags, it doesn't freeze as a whole clump of cooked meat. It freezes, it's almost little crumbles. So yeah, it's great. You can use some right away if you want to cook with it that night, and then you can freeze the rest. So it's super handy. I mean, because you can use it in a million different things. You can use the beef then in the dish we're making today, but you can also then use it in your pasta sauce. You can sprinkle it on nachos, tacos, any kind of casserole. Really, the sky is the limit. So that's why I recommend just a little bit of prep work in advance and you're good to go. So this is looking really good. I'll kind of show you that it's looking cooked. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to just lift this up so you can see it. And I'm just going to sprinkle it with the end of the cheese here for garnish. Yum, so tasty. Give you guys just another bird's eye view of what this looks like. Very, very tasty. Okay, and now I'm just gonna get myself a little bowl of it going. So I have a bowl over here with a fork. Perfect. So I'll just serve myself some up. I'll show you guys. And I think you guys can just tell just how easy that was to make and how fast it went. This is the fastest video we've done because I know that this is just one of those simpler recipes. There we go. Looks super tasty and delicious. This is an absolute perfect fast meal, good for any kind of weeknight meal, and even better because it is a one-pot meal, which means that way less to clean up. So there we go. I'll take a bite. So good.